Okay. It's all right. So last time we started from scratch with this skeleton of an app, tiny app. You have the get, post, patch, delete actions. And the way we did it is we had, let's see, my computer's not cooperating, sorry. All right, we had a constant that kept track of our data. And it was a little clunky, right? Because every time we killed our server, the information would go away. And that's not what we want. We want information that stays there, um, and no matter what happens to the application. So we're going to look at that. We're going to see a very primitive concept of a database so that our information stays. Also, the way that we did requests to the application was through curl to inject or add data to the database through the command line. Instead, what we're going to do today is we're going to create a very simple form. So we have a view on the website so we can add the input and submit it to the database. I'm going to go a little slow just because it's a little bit different from before, and also it helps me because we're going to be doing this on the fly. So if we want to add anything, we can think of stuff to add if we have time. For the moment, we're not going to need this. So I'm going to get rid of what we're not going to use. And I had some questions last class about these tools. These are the same as what you guys have on C9. It's just that I'm more used to this, but I'm using Atom over here. I'm using the terminal window on the top, and the bottom right will be Chrome. So just to make sure, we're going to be running the server here. This is our code, and this is our client. So we're going to start with something simple. I'm going to get rid of, let's get rid of everything actually. And let's just get a home page, right? Right now, we don't have anything going on. We don't even have a server. So does anybody know how I could get a home page going? Maybe. Somebody remember what the root directory symbol is? How do we tell the application what the root directory of the website is?
CD is the switch.
Slash? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a common concept in the command line, and it also happens here, where this denotes that root directory. So we're gonna do that get, and I'm gonna save that. So still nothing is happening. Why is that? I haven't started the server. Yep, that's right. Do you remember how to start it by chance? Yep. So I'm going to run the app. And there we go. So now we can refresh. And we have something different. Now we just have something blank. Why do we have something blank? Right. I don't have anything inside the block doing anything. Okay. So that's cool. That makes sense. So just to make sure that that's the case, I'm going to just do test and see if I'm in the right path. I am. Okay. So I'm going to introduce the concept of views. Right now, all this server is doing is upon the request on that endpoint or action, it's feeding back the string test. And so Chrome gets that string and says, oh, all I have is a string, so that's all I got to show. So we wanted to show actual HTML. Are you guys familiar with HTML at all? A little bit? Huh? Sorry? Familiar with the concept, that's fine. And this is not going to be a class of HTML. So we're going to do something very simple. For those that don't know too much about HTML, it's a markup language. And what that means is that you tag things to look a certain way. The way I think about it is HTML is the structure of your website. So if you have a house, imagine a house, HTML would be the architecture of the house. CSS, if you guys have heard of it, is the styling. So it would be the paint, how it looks, all the little details. And then JavaScript is the actions. So how the door opens or closes, the functionality of the house. So HTML just gives a structure to the page. And I believe we can do it inline here. Let's see if this works. I don't remember, so this might not work. I think you are able to do let's see if that works. It does. So you guys see now that the test is shown differently. And more importantly, what's missing? What's missing on the view? Right. It did not print the header tags because Chrome saw them and said, oh, these are HTML tags. I don't need to show this. This is just information for me to display test a certain way. Let's see if we can look if that is correct. So that's very tiny. Okay. So we have 200 status get, meaning that it was successful. Let's look at it. Close this one now. And look at that. Those are tags, and they're in different colors. So that's a very simple HTML page. Now, as you guys can imagine, if you go to any website, I don't know, let's go to Google, for example, even though that's seemingly simple. Now, this is what this page looks like as a source. And it's a lot, right? It's a lot of code. Don't be intimidated by this. It's just a lot of stuff that has been built by a lot of people. But the point of this is that eventually when you get a bigger page or a bigger view, you don't want to put everything here, right? Because then your file is going to get really big. And so it's going to be very unmanageable. So you probably don't want to do this. Even though it works, you don't want to do this because it becomes messy over time. So what is the solution to this? We can render a view. And what that means is that we can display a file that lives somewhere else. So as a convention for Sinatra, you're going to need a new folder called views. And then in here, I can add the file that I want to show. So I'm going to create a new file. Let's call it home. Now, I'm passing it the format ERB. That stands for Embedded Ruby. And it's just a format that allows you to write HTML and add in Ruby as needed. And I'm going to show you that later, that concept. But for now, just know that this is how we can create a view.
How do you,
Sure.
how do you create a view? Just like,
Trying to create it on, yeah.
where do you go to file?
Yeah, you can go to File or right-click on the, let me see. Yeah, so this is your, click there, so you see. This is where your app is. Oh, sure. Sure, like new right-click. And do, it's going to be called views. Yeah, the name of your file. The important thing is that it ends in ERB. So yeah, it's there. This is the views, and then if you open that up, there it is. Oh, this should be, delete that. This is a folder. You have to hit enter. So, right click. There you go. So that's your, yeah, that's your view. Cool. So let's do that. And I'm going to do something simple. I'm going to write the HTML here. So let's do and as you can see, we have an H2 tag, which means header 2. And then the ending tag has a / Every time you close out an HTML tag, you have that /. So I save that. I'm going to save my app. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the ERB method that is already built into Sinatra. I'm going to pass it a symbol with the name of the view. So all of those things are what we call magical things, meaning that by convention, Sinatra knows these rules, and because you're doing this, then it knows, okay, I have a symbol called home. I'm going to look for a view called home. So There's nothing explicit about this in terms of Ruby. In Ruby, this would not make any sense, right? You have a symbol home, and the application would not know what to do. So all of that functionality is being brought in by Sinatra in terms of what's going to happen. So let's make sure that works. There it is. So does that make sense so far? A little bit? The core concept here is that we have folder called views. The action knows where to go when you hit that action /. So you have get / show me the home page. So now we can simply add more stuff here if we wanted to. We can say something like right, and I save that. And for the views, I don't have to kill the server. All I have to do is refresh. And there it is. So just keep it that way for now.
Will you be learning HTML in the advanced class?
Yeah, you'll be doing a little bit more of that in the advanced class, just because you'll have more time. But I also encourage you guys to learn it on your own as well, because the hard part is not, or the harder parts are going to be Rails and how it works. And so they might not focus too much on that. Okay, so we're going to do a little, we did a list, kind of like a list app before, right? Where we send in information through curl, it saved it to a database, and then we could update that or delete it. So I'm going to create a very simple list app where I just put something in and it saves it and it displays it. So does anybody have a wild guess as to how maybe we can accomplish that up until this point? Maybe piece some of the things together. No, it's fine. So say I want to have like a reminder note app. I want to add a note, and I want this to display that note. And I also want to delete the note if I wanted to.
So it's going to be a storage system.
Mm-hmm.
So the note will be just a string note, or
yeah, that's just a string. Yep.
So you'll use params and get the string from the user.
Yep.
And then we're going to store it to a file.
Yes.
I'm not sure how Sinatra writes things to files, if it works the same way as Ruby. Then you'll need to whatever the app opens for it to be able to pull or access that file. So require that file. And allow the user to modify that's going to be another method that says, okay, the user wants to delete this string, delete this information. So we probably need to store the string inside of something so you can delete it more easily.
Yeah. No, that's very good. Like you hit the key points of what we need to do. So we need to have some sort of storing system, a database. We also need to get the information through the params and save it that way. We need to have a way to access the file and display it. So we can do that, I think, in a very simple manner, just so we can follow along. And you asked, well, what? You could do a hash. I'm not going to do a hash today just so that it's simple. We can keep track of it, but you could definitely do a hash. And so I'm thinking I'm going to use YAML. We saw a little bit of YAML before, and it was just in passing, so it's okay if you guys don't remember. this is another thing that you don't have to memorize right now. It's just so that you guys see the concept. So I'm going to require the YAML library so I have access to it. And in the top directory, I'm going to create a new file. I'm just going to call it db.yaml. So the way that YAML works is that you can create hashes or arrays in a markup manner. So I'm just going to create a key called data. And it's going to have things. So right now, that probably will error out. So I'm going to do so what that means right now is that you have a hash, and the value of that hash is an array with just one record called first record. And I'm going to show you what that looks like eventually. So let's go back to the app. Okay, so we need to load that database somehow and do something with it. Right now, we're only displaying the view. Let's just load it just for kicks to see what happens. So I'm going to do, let's just call it db pulse. So I'm using the YAML object, the method load file, and I'm passing it the path of the file so it loads the file. And let's see what that looks like. I love using Pry. I'm a big fan. Anytime I want to know if I'm on the right track, I test it out and see what happens. So in order for the changes to take place, I got to kill the server and start again and see if I did this right. Okay, so we're here. Let's look at DB. And there it is. We have a hash, so let's make sure that's the case. We can look at the class. Yep, it's a hash. And if we look at the first key, which is data, how do we look at a key of a hash? How do I access data right now? What do I need to type?
Oh, look at just the key?
Yeah, if I want to look, if I just want to look at that array, if I want to access that array, what do I need to type data?
Brackets and parentheses, you put the key inside.
Yeah.
To the hash thing.
Yeah. So you. That's a key. Yep. That's how I get to the array. Are we tracking so far? Any questions? You guys can stop me at any point. I really don't mind. If anything is not making sense. But so far, just to recap, I have a file that has information that translates to a hash with the key data, and inside that key, I have an array. And every time you hear array, the way I think about it is a list or a collection of things. You're gonna hear collection a lot as well. So let's continue. Okay, so I loaded the database. I stopped for a second to look at what was going on. Then the view displayed. How come the database doesn't show there, right? We have it in the block, but it's not showing here. That's a little weird, right? You think it would show everything that was happening inside the block. Well, that's not really the case because right now the get action is only executing what you tell it to execute. And so the view, if we go to the view, the view says, oh, all I got to show is this. I don't care about the database. Who cares about it? You have a database, but you're not telling me to do anything with it. So why should I display it? So the way that works is through an instance variable. If I change this DB to @DB, now I have access to it on the view. And this is the way that it works. Remember I mentioned ERB stands for Embedded Ruby? What that means is that we can add and it get executed and translated into HTML. And the syntax for that is called can't remember the name of it actually, to be honest, but it looks like this. It looks like opening or less than %, and then you close it like that. Those are the tags. Now there are two of them. There are two of them that you can use. And what's the difference between the two? Equal sign. That's right. So, can somebody get the door? Okay. So, does anybody have a guess as to what the difference would be between the two? Crystal, maybe? You might know.
Between the equal sign and not. Okay, that's a percent similar. That's the module. Is that what's the module?
Yeah, well, this is not Ruby yet. This is just a tag to demonstrate to the view that I'm about to put in Ruby. So, for example, right? What do we think is going to show here? Four? Let's see. Oh, did not work. But, oh, because I'm stuck here. There. Yep. 4.
Do you need the equal sign to tell that it's percent?
Yeah, let's try it. Let's try it. Okay. So we have Ruby in one. We have Ruby in both tags.
It doesn't understand it yet. Is that it?
No.
It doesn't know that it's Ruby in the top one?
Not quite. But you're close. So let's look at the view. What's happening in the view?
Looks like you have a nil or spot above the floor. Maybe?
Okay. Yeah. That's a good guess. But the answer is that the difference between the two is that this is still executing. It's just not showing. So this is still happening. In fact, we can look at it. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay. Refresh that. Sorry, I have a bind and pry. And now both show. The only difference was the equal sign. This was happening the whole time. It's just that without the equals, it happens without getting shown in the view. So any Ruby works here. We can do right? And let's see. Oh, actually, I broke it. Why did I break it? Syntax error.
Okay, instead of the X, I just was using the star.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you. Yep.
Okay.
So does that make sense? We have Ruby inside of HTML, and the only reason this works is because of the tags. So now that we know that, we can grab that instance variable. See. Oh, sorry. What do we call it? VB. Let me get rid of that pry because it's a little bit annoying right now. We can put this there. Okay. So this still makes sense. I have the view here and the app up top. Are we still good? Okay. So I'm going to kill the server for the changes to take place. Anytime I make a change on app in Sinatra, on the app file, I have to kill the server and restart. I don't know why Sinatra does this, but sometimes it gets hung up like that. I'm just going to do a new terminal and close that old one.
How do you build a server?
Control C. Let's see what happens. What do we think is going to happen?
Is it just gonna? I don't think it has a string version. It's just gonna print out the hash.
Yeah, that's a good guess. I think that's what's going to happen. It's just going to print out the hash. Let's see. Yeah. There it is. So we're loading the hash. We're putting it in an instance variable. And the view now has access to it through embedded Ruby. And it knows, oh, okay, I got to display it. So it calls, I believe it calls .inspect on it. And that's what makes it show here. Let's see. If we change this, then just to make sure, then that still happens. It just doesn't get shown. But I still have access to that variable in this view if I want to use it later. So that looks ugly, right? We have the hash. It's like, what is that? And you go into an application like, that makes no sense to me. Does anybody maybe have an idea how to display each record in that array?
Could do. I guess it could do in each block for the value to put it into like a more creative format for the hash. Each do value puts in a string.
Yep.
Name this, or you saved.
Yep.
Saved
Does anybody have anything else, or does that sound good? Does anybody know? Like, anybody catch what Crystal said? No. Okay.
Remember that we did the each box for the hash, where you could pull up in the each box for the hash, you have the option of using both the key and the value. You can also just do something with the value to show.
Remember, we have an array too, right?
Put it into a string format. Yeah, we have an array inside of it. But I don't know, because the array is a value, and there's not really different parts to the array, so could we just put it in. So saying, I don't know, what are we saving anyway? What is this note? What's the note that's going to be saved? That'll, I guess, make a difference with how you want to play.
Sure. It's just going to be a note. So it's just going to be whatever.
So maybe the last note you saved, and then I'll have that little early bracket thing with the hash, and have value inside of that. In that bracket.
You could do that. I'm thinking simpler still, just so that we don't get too worried about how we save the database. It's just how I want to focus on mechanics of how it works. So array and not worry about accessing it. Just simply adding things to the array and taking things out of the array. So we know that the key for DB and the data is data. So we're going to do let's see what that displays. Yeah, that would just display a value, which is, what is that? What type of data is that? Array. It's an array, yeah. And it just happens to have only one record. So we could do, since we only have one, we can do first. Now it's just a value. What is the problem here, though? Right. When you add other things to it, it's just going to show me just the first record. So I don't want the application just to show me the first record. So let's try. You said each, right? We can each over that array that we just looked. So we're going to do, let's call it node to make it clear. And then I want it to look pretty, so let's make it a paragraph for each one. So it's going to be still need tags. And what do I put in here?
It still stays in each box, and then you have the name.
Yeah, I have this wrong. Hold on. This needs to be. So, sorry about that. You guys remember string interpolation? This is called also interpolation. And essentially what this means is I have an HTML element, and inside of it, I'm going to interpolate the variable note. Now, there's something wrong here, just so you guys know, but I'm gonna keep going just to demonstrate what was wrong. What does the each block need for it to work in Ruby? End. Yep. We need an end.
Right. I'm just so confused about. So you break out of the. You have to put the little grading symbol. What is that thing called?
I think it's skull tags. I just remember they're called skull tags.
Skull tags.
Yeah, skull tags.
So you have to put the skull tag before you can put the paragraph, and then you go back into putting it in the Ruby code, and it still recognizes it. Is that recognized?
Yeah, it's yeah. I see what you're asking. It's a little tricky because you think that this would stop the execution of Ruby, right? You think, oh well, I finished the tag here. It's not like HTML where like this forward slash closes that element and it's done. This is just an interpolation. So it's like it's saying put this code inside of this HTML page, and then whatever comes after, keep looking at it. Whatever, it's kind of like a poking a hole into the HTML and add in your Ruby code. But it doesn't necessarily stop the execution of your Ruby code. This, even though there's a closing tag here, still is related to this, and it keeps going. Because if you don't have this, if you don't have that, notice how the P changes color, and now thinks that this is part of Ruby. And so Ruby will not know what to do with that. So let's go back.
You don't need puts for that,
Nope, you don't need puts because this calls .inspect on it, and that turns it into a string. So we need the end. Oh, not M, end. Let's see what happens here. Oh, very big, ugly error. Do we have a guess what went wrong here? It has to do, the clue is it has to do with the skull tags. Okay. So the problem here is that we're displaying everything to HTML. Not just what we need. We only need to be displayed what we want to be shown. And all of this is gobbledygook. Like we don't need to show it to the user. So we need to get rid of that. And also the end does not make any sense to be shown. Really, the only thing we're interested in is note. And now we have, if we inspect this, that's ugly. There we go. We inspect this. We have an element with the P tag on this page. It's a little P tag right there, and then you can also see it up there, just as the first record with the P tag. Now here's the cool part about it. I can go to the database. Save that. Now if I refresh, that gets displayed because that view is looking at that database every time you refresh the page. So right now your db.yaml acts as the database. Your home acts as the view. And this is what you eventually learn to understand as a controller. But for now, just think of it as the code that manages the access to the database and feeding that information to the view. How do we feel with that so far? Yeah, making a little sense. And like I said, you don't have to remember all this. Like if you guys need any help setting this up at home, let me know. But if you also don't get it to work, don't panic. It's fine. You're gonna encounter it again, and this is just a method for you to understand Rails a little better. So let's continue. Let me get rid of this record. So I deleted it, and now it's gone. Cool. So we have that. Now we want to add stuff to it. What does anybody remember what the action for that is? To add stuff to a database. Post. Yep, that's right. All right, let's see. And where do we want to post this to? We want to post it to the database. Yep. And what URL are we going to choose? This is arbitrary, but like I want to stay consistent. So what do we want to post to? Not quite. How does get look like? What do I need to type next? /. Yep. And so what this means is that I am now creating logic to understand whenever I get a post request to that URL, now I know that I can add logic into here to do something. So the first thing I want to do is I want to see if it's working. Now, if you guys were here last class, you might have remembered that we did it through curl. But I want to do it through the website now. Let me kill the server. Okay. Does anybody have any guess as to how I'm ever going to hit that binding.pry? How does one typically add information on the website? On Rubyland, it's gets, right? Here, params, okay. I could put it on the URL, but one thing to remember is anything I put up here, let's try it. There's no pry, so what happened? Do we see what's going on here? The client, if I put something up here, the client is still issuing a GET request. That's not what I want. What I want is a POST request. So typically on a website, what you need is a form, right? You have a little box, you go in there, you type something, and that's how you add information. So Where do we feel confident that that belongs? A form. I need it to show here. I need it to show it maybe somewhere around here. Doesn't really matter. View, right? Okay, so we can go to the view. And now we're going to do a little bit of more HTML. And again, if you don't have to know this necessarily, but just know that the tag for a form is form. And I have a little bit of Atom magic. And I have to use it because sometimes I don't remember. So I just type form, and this is how it typically looks like. We have different tags for the form. I don't think I'll use class. And the important ones are action and method. So what do we notice here? We have a post method on that tag. Then we have an action. It's called index, but that's something that Atom just added by itself. But I don't want it to go to index because I don't have one, right? Like our app doesn't have an index HTML. What is the one action our app has? It only has one. What's that? Home. Oh, app.rb. That's our application, and inside of it, what after each action, what do we have as an argument? You have get something. You have post something. What is that something?
So we're gonna switch the index to the database file.
Nope, it's simpler than that. We're just going to change the action to /. So this is a translation of I'm going to whatever's in here. I'm going to go to post, and then I'm going to look for that wrapped post /. Okay, so let me save that, and then if we refresh that, it's not going to show anything. And that's just a matter of HTML not being complete. So I'm going to do an input. And I do want it to be a text input. And right now, I don't have a value attached to it. So let's see what that looks like. Hey, look at that. We have a little box. Okay, so there's no, I can type something here, but hey, maybe I want to click a button that allows me to send that. So let's do another. Ooh. And in this case, it will be submit. And the value, let's call it submit. Cool. So, and let's see what happens. Oh, look at that. We're in the post action. See how it matches up there? The code. And now, what is the thing we're interested here to look at?
Oh, so this is okay. So this is stuff that's built into Atom, or it's built in Atom. This functionality of the input with the submit button.
No, this is standard HTML. So anywhere you write this in an HTML file, the Chrome will know to do that. Yeah. What I mentioned about Adam was the autocomplete functionality. Like I didn't have to type it all out. I just had to like type a little bit and auto completed it. But this is HTML code. There's nothing. You can put this in any HTML website, and that will happen every time. That on Chrome side.
You don't need that less than symbol for the first one?
Yeah, it's there. I think it's just. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Go.
So then now we have to tell this to save this information? Where is it being saved?
That's a good question. Where's it being saved? So I have a form. It starts here. It ends here. I have two input tags. One is for the box. We see there. The other one is for the button. So this is its own universe inside of here. So when I click the submit, it looks at everything that happened before it and sends it to the server. So when I click that, it sends the request to the server, which is my Sinatra app. So what do I have access to in Sinatra to look at data? What is a built-in method? And I'm going to list them here so that we can see. Oh, sorry. Okay. Look at the base methods on the bottom. Which one should I be interested in?
I don't know, I would say the request.
We could look at the request, yeah. Let's see if that's helpful. Oh, I don't know, that's kind of ugly. There's a lot going on. Yeah, so I don't think that's it for now. We might use requests later on in other classes, but for now that's not it. So what else? What would be another one we want to look at? We've used this word a lot recently. Remember what was the keyword that you said on how to get data from the user? Params. Yeah. Hey, why is it empty? That's not right. Oh, okay. This is good. So I have a bug. I was expecting this, but I have nothing. So let's see what's going on. I think it would be, this needs, let's see. Yeah, it needs a name. The name doesn't have to be note, but let's try it again. I have to refresh because if we look at the page source, see it's still missing. So let me, oh, made a mistake. I didn't mean to click that. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, let's try this again. And let's look at params.
Okay. So it creates a new hash.
Yep, we created a hash params with a key note, and the value is what I put in that box. So that means I'm inside here, right? We're in that line right now. So I have access to that data and do whatever I want to do with that data. So what do I want to do with that data?
I guess you just want to add the value to the array.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So I'm just going to add the value to the array. Let's write that. Okay. Don't need that no more. Oh. What did you say? Yeah. Yes, we are. We are. Let's see. Get that. So we want to access the database again. Now, question for you guys. Why am I doing this again? It's up here.
They can access the stuff within each other.
Right. Yeah. All this.
Would it work if you made it something, a value outside of a method, and then we're just referencing that? Like it's just.
Yeah, I think it would, and we can do that in a second. But I think you're onto something. But for now, just know that I'm doing it again because post doesn't have access to the instance variable inside of get. And that's the tricky part because in Ruby, in plain vanilla Ruby, that's not true, right? If you have two methods, they have access to the instance variable. So that's something to keep in mind. Oh. And we have DB data. Let me change that to single quotes. We want to, this is an array. What do we want to do to it? You said push, right? And what do we want to push?
Just, I just wanted to test.
Right. Sorry? Yeah, push the value. That's correct. How though? What do I need to type to push the value? Yes. Right. So let's see what we got so far. To see if any of this works. Okay. Let me close that in. So, refresh that. Okay. So let's see. What do we think DB is going to look like?
Yes. If it's the way I would hope to have first record and then comma test, but
Yeah. Yep.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So What's missing here though? Because I'm going to exit out and some funky happened, but let's go back to home. And what happened? I have no test. What's that? Okay, so wait. Close the file. Okay, let's hold on to that. So we got a view display request over here, and then we have a save request over here. So let's see. I'm turning off the pride just so that I don't have to stop. And let's see what happens. We still haven't closed the file yet, but let's see what happens if I just do this. Refresh that. Ooh. Big ugly message. Let's see if I can make this. Oh, that's very tiny now. I'm gonna have to over here. So something went really wrong here. It's saying brackets are not a method, a nil class. And my suspicion is it has to do with the fact that we didn't save the file. Also, more importantly, that's a good suggestion because we need to get back to home, but the way that it's done in this case is that. So let's take care of saving the file. And this is going to look a little complex for now, but it'll make sense eventually. I'm going to walk you through it. And you saw a little bit of it too. But the point is not, this syntax is not the point of this. Just know that this, right.
Instead of just writing, is it better to do? No, I guess it won't. No, because I was thinking of the A, but that would mean to add to the end. And this is everything the same thing.
Yeah. So I see what you're saying.
Adds to the end of the file.
Yeah. Let's remember it's a file. So a file is not a Ruby object. So you can't just add. You could concatenate, but it wouldn't work on a YAML file. It would not keep the structure of the format that it needs. So we're opening it up and rewriting it to look how we want it to look. So and this actually needs to be wrapped. So we're saying open the file, this same file, which is a database. We're going to write on it. And on it, we're going to dump in the YAML format, we're going to dump this data that you just changed, which is DB, the variable DB. So let's see if that works. Okay. Hey, look at that. How do we feel about that? It's cool, right?
Yeah.
And more importantly, if we go to the database and say, I don't like this, does it still work? Yeah, because it only cares about the database, and I can kill the server. Obviously, the page doesn't work. I can fire it up again. And I don't lose my data like I did before, because it's not dependent upon a variable inside of the app. It's dependent on a file somewhere that is saved. So keeping with that momentum, let's add, oh, how did I do that? I don't know why I did that. So we need a functionality to delete nodes, and just keep things simple. We're gonna delete one by one in reverse order. So what does that sound like in terms of an array?
Which one's the one is it pop?
Pop. You guys remember pop? Array pop? Yeah. So let's go back here. What do I want to do now? What do I do there? Forward slash, yeah. Yeah, okay. All right, so I think I'm gonna stick to my strategy and see if like this even works before I get into a deeper hole. So here we go. All right, so any guesses as to how I make my Chrome application hit this particular point in my server? It's kind of similar to post, so it's a little similar. We need another form. That's good. So where does the form belongs? Home. Yep. The view. Yep. So let's do it. So we need a form, and I'm lazy, so there it is. I don't need the class. What's the action? Forward slash. Now, yep, let's see. That's the tricky part. I don't want to confuse you guys too much, because that is the perfect conclusion, given what we had before. So there's something about it that is not right. Let's see. So let's just do a submit button. And see what that looks like. Let's make this show before, just so it looks a little nicer. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure to restart the service just to make sure that that's happening. And let's see if we get here. Nothing happened. Let's try this again. What do we see here? Get. For some reason, and this is probably something for more advanced developers, but for some reason, HTML doesn't actually have a delete action keyword, which is crazy, right? Like you think they would have come up with one already, but it just hasn't happened. I'm sure there's a lot of history behind it, but you cannot just do method delete and then Chrome understand what's going on. So that's kind of a wrinkle in terms of how actions work, but you still need to know that it's delete. And the way that it works is, I'm going to change this to post, and I'm going to add another input. Oh, let's see. See how it changed the type from text to hidden? And I'm going to add another tag called method. With the underscore delete in it. Unless I'm going to make sure that that's right, because I always forget. Let's see. Sorry, that is incorrect. It's the name that needs to be changed. Okay, so we add a hidden input. The name of it is going to be called underscore method, and that's just a convention that Sinatra understands. So that when it gets that sort of input, it looks at the value and says, oh, this is a hidden method with the value delete. Instead of it being this, I'm going to ignore this and then instead interpret it as delete. When you get to Rails, like this is the beauty about Rails. When you get to Rails, you're not going to have to worry about that. And the fact that we have to do it by hand on Sinatra is also good because you understand, one, that what's going on the background, and two, it lets you appreciate what Rails is going to do for you eventually. So a lot of the things that we're doing on Sinatra will be done out of the box on Rails. But if you don't see them, you don't understand the backbone of Rails. So you're gonna just think, oh, I have to do this because X, versus understanding what actually is happening. So let's try that. I'm gonna save that and this, refresh, and let's see if that worked. Oh, it didn't work. Why did it not work? Oh, I know. Don't worry about this. Sorry guys, this is just something I just know after much Googling. So this essentially means turn on the feature of this sort of method override on Sinatra. So I'm going to exit and refresh. Cool. We're in the delete action now. And just for kicks, let's see what params has. Oh, weird. It has that method delete. And we're probably going to ignore that, but that tells you that Sinatra is looking at that, and by looking at that with the underscore method, it knows that I need to turn that into a delete action. So we said pop, right? How do we do that?
I know that we're just going to pull up the array and copy in, but I don't.
Yeah.
Does this, just pressing the delete button automatically call that?
Yeah, it just happened, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
as soon as it's called, it'll just copy the item off the end.
Right.
So you pull up DB, the data in the brackets, dot com.
Yep. So it looks a lot like what? Something that we have already, right?
You need to rewrite the file too, so you already use the information.
Yep. So let's do that. Yeah, I could. But do we want to copy this though?
No, you don't need the sheet. You're not going to get rid of all of them.
Probably do need this. Let's copy that for later. And so we need DB data. What did we say? Pop. Yeah. And then, oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay. And am I missing anything? I have reading the database. I have taken the data out. I have saved in the database. Where? Back home? Okay. Okay. All right, let's see. Ooh, what happened? Something happened? I didn't save? I thought I... That's weird. I thought I had restarted it. Save that. Let me try this again. There it is. Now this is annoying. I keep having to do that. So let's just add the autofocus here. So all I have to do is say autofocus. Refresh. And now I don't have to worry. How do we feel about that? Cool. Yeah. And so that's really the web design in essence. Everything else, every other website that's going to be out there is the same mechanism, maybe in a slightly different format, but that's all you're doing. You have a record you want to save, you save it somewhere, and then if you want to delete it, you can delete it. If you want to update it, you update it. But you're in control. You're in total control of how that occurs. There's not like one way to do something. There are going to be standards and conventions that are best practices that you're going to see make life easier for you. But a lot of programming is problem solving, and it will all be dictated about what your client is asking or what sort of application you want to create. You're in control of that. It's just knowing the mechanism of how it happens. The big thing to learn here is that you have three major components. Does anybody know maybe what the major components are?
The view.
The view.
The controller.
Controller.
Things for the view, and the database will be saver.
The database, yeah. Now, you're going to encounter that concept whenever you get to Rails. It's called the MVC model, Model View Controller. And it's going to look different because Rails does things differently. But as a simple version, you have the view. Model is the thing that you're manipulating. So in this case, it will be a note, right? Because this is what I'm saving to the database. That's what I'm retrieving. That's the model. And the controller is the mechanism that allows me to do that manipulation. So like if I need to delete a model, then the controller takes care of knowing how to do it. If I need to grab it, then the controller takes care of grabbing that model and knowing how to do it in the database. So that is an app in a nutshell. Let me see if I got anything else. Let's see what time we have. We maybe can do a little bit of refactoring just because we have some repetition. And maybe we can make this look simple or simpler. Typically, when you have actions like this, you want it to be as clean as possible so that you can understand what's going on. What we can do is maybe create a method inside of the app, and it makes it more readable. I have something like, unless anybody else has a different proposal, we can do something like read database. And then how do I read the database? Well, I load it like this. Let me, okay. So now I can, let's see. Oh, that's not what I want. Okay. Let's see if that still works. Okay. Okay. So now we have a method that is accessible by all of the actions that allows me my code to be more readable. And if I ever in the future change how I access the database, I only have to do it in one place.
Could maybe even shorter by calling the method DB instead of read database and just use DB data. We would have to use DB.
You could. Let's try that. Let's try that. So I'm going to comment that out and see what happens. Oh. Sorry. And then we're going to change this to DB. And so your proposal is DB, and then we can get rid of this, right? Yeah, let's just do that and see what happens. Well, if I need a DB, probably would be DB, right? Is that what you had in mind? Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. Oh, this is very tricky because I tried this actually, and I encountered that problem. I thought it would work too. Do we have a guess as to why that doesn't work?
I really don't understand the method as a variable.
Okay.
Because DB is a variable the load file, so you're calling the method, method data, and it doesn't understand that maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. The problem is that there's a lot of things happen whenever you open DB. So because it has the same name, it looks at the file again and it rewrites on itself. So it becomes false like that. And when it becomes false like that, then it returns as false to the app, and there's no method to access anything on false. Yeah, and that, I mean that's good. You're gonna encounter many times where like you want to try something, just go for it. Don't be afraid to do it. And if it fails, that's a good thing. Failures are a good thing because you learn something new every time. In the future, you're gonna encounter a concept called testing. And it's a little bit difficult because for testing, you have to know what you expect the application to do. But if you have a good written test, then you can code and refactor, run the test, make sure it still works, and then refactor again. And if the test fails the next time around, then you can go back and try your approach again. Right now, we're doing a manual test, right? I'm changing the code, reloading, and that's my test. But in the future, there will be code that does that for you, that refreshes the page and looks at what's going on. And if it looks like what you were expecting, the test will pass. So don't be afraid of making mistakes or following a solution that you might have thought of. And if it ends up not working, that's good. Just try to understand why it didn't work. Let's see. What else can we simplify?
Could we do the file open as another method and just call that the file open right to dump. That's the same.
I think so. Let's try that. So what do we want to call that?
Change that.
Yeah, we can call that. Maybe update database. Okay. Now, something a little funky here. What am I missing? So let's replace all these and see if it works. We said update database, right? No, it's not.
So we need the DB variable. Put it down.
We need the DB variable, yeah. Let me see that. I think that's the only place. Yeah. So we said update database.
So we need to go and put DB equals read database.
Ah,
Any method or
we could, but there's an easier way. What could we do?
call the read database method? Oh.
Yeah, you pass the database to it, and all right, let's see if that works. Oh, that's right. My database is corrupted now, so I got it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hey, let's see. So that works. And now, if we look at our app, it looks nicer, right? We can say, oh, what does the post do? It reads the database. I push some data, and then I update it. Go somewhere else. And now, again, if this mechanism changes in the future, I don't have to change it in every action. I just change it there. And I think I'm going to end on that note, unless you guys have questions, general questions, let me know. But I think for the last class, we're going to do maybe something that updates a record more specifically. And if I have time, maybe do some authentication, very simple one. But I'm not sure. We're going to have a talk from Stacy from the Army, the campus director here, about any opportunities that they might have for you guys. So if you have any questions, let me know. But other than that, I think we're good. If you need help, I can stick around with getting an application going. Let me stop the broadcast.